The movie starts in 1959 in a secret military complex. Agent John Brighton was talking to a little girl, but he can only see her answers as it's being typed on a screen. They talk about a door that she's unable to open, and this is Sarah, and she's sitting in an alien-looking seat with a metal hand gear on her hand. He wants to know what opens the door, and he's trying to force an answer out of her, asking her what she sees.
People. They're screaming.
But when he asks her who she hears screaming in a dark place, Sarah wakes up to find herself tied up with creepy tentacles all around her. Zach also wakes up next to her with the same tentacles around his body. The energy gets transformed into an orb that lights up. All of this was happening inside of a UFO spaceship that was hovering above Earth. It was now 10 years later in the same military facility, and General Alistair was being told that they have lost Sarah's transmission. But apparently, there was another bad news.
Agent Brighton has disappeared.
The ship was still holding people hostage, and that's where John wakes up. He sees the energy beams moving somewhere and sees Sarah, and he introduces himself to Zach and tries to talk to Sarah, but she doesn't say a word to him. She remembers bad things that happened to her in the hands of John. He still asks about the door but gets no response from her, and John thinks the aliens are using a remote interface since they haven't contacted anyone yet. Zach was trying to remember a better time where he was in bed with his girlfriend, but Sarah was in the memory to mess it up. She was trying to speak but can't seem to get the words out. She was saying the conversation that she heard between Zach and his girlfriend, and this gets Zach more agitated because he wants to know how Sarah knows this much about him. But then they see someone else next to them. This is Rhonda, and she was panicking, which lets the ship absorb something from her like the rest. John tries to talk to her, but she was not listening at all, and even Sarah and Zach try to talk to her, but she was not listening. John says that it's too late because she's flooding, which means the machine is taking energy from her pretty fast. It starts to tighten up on her, and John was okay with this. Zach was confused by all this, but John seems to know what he's talking about. He was fine with watching Rhonda getting suffocated by the alien tentacles, and she's finally done, and lets go as she passes out and the machine stops.
Unconscious is a hell of a lot better than dead.
John was right, because if she had fought against it, then her spine would have snapped. John tries to talk to Sarah again to get her to open the door. The general asks Dr. Sherman how this could have happened, but he has no idea. Hegg gives the general a file and gives a very lengthy explanation on how John and Sarah might be connected even after 10 years of them being apart, and they can't give a solid explanation as to how that might have happened.
What the hell have you gotten yourself into?
Sarah was not talking, even after John tries to ask her a question to figure out why they're there. She sees someone else now, Perry, and he was thrashing around like the rest and doesn't listen to John when he tells him to calm down. He eventually listens after feeling the tentacles tighten around his body, and he introduces himself to the group. Perry was in prison and feeling sick. The doctor came to check on him, but he spit some black goo on her face. John also had the same feeling right before he was brought here, and Perry has figured out that this is some kind of extraterrestrial entity, but Zach thinks is being stupid and wants a more logical answer for their problem. Perry grew up around mining machines and knows very well that humans had no hand in building this.
Something else must have built it.
Zach was trying to brush it off by making a joke, but it's obvious that they've been kidnapped by aliens. John tries to tell him about the information that he knows about aliens, and Perry knew all along that he was some kind of government operative. Even after years of research and resources, John tells them that they couldn't find out much about the aliens. All of a sudden, the machine wakes up and starts torturing Rhonda to absorb her energy, and John tries to tell her to calm down.
Miss, I know you're afraid. But if you do exactly as I say, we can get through this. Do you understand?
She eventually trusts him and closes her eyes, and he tells her her name and gets her to take a deep breath. Perry encourages her and she eventually calms down after she starts to imagine her favorite place in the world, somewhere where she could be safe. Rhonda was a teacher, and Perry bonds with her because his mom was also a teacher. She tells him about her daughter Hannah, who's only 8, and Perry also has a 19-year-old son. It's time to open her eyes now, and she stays calm, and Rhonda only recalls dropping her daughter off at school.
I felt this really horrible pain.
Alex, a woman struggling with drug addiction, is also seen, and she becomes scared when she looks around the area and sees the tentacles.
Miss, listen to me.
Once she calms down, she instantly identifies Zach as a famous singer who was killed by his future wife.
Oh shit, you're Zach Chase.
When asked more by John, Alex mentions that she heard about Jack's murder in 2008, and this surprises everyone because Zach was still alive and well in their presence. After looking into the time frame for each person, it seems that the time period is different for everyone inside the machine. John realizes that they're stuck inside the machine from different times for different reasons, and they don't know how long they've been held in that place.
It's 2050, innit?
While they were talking, a creature that looks like a dirty snake comes up to Rhonda, trying to frighten her. The creature opens its mouth and swallows Rhonda, and as soon as it does, she starts to imagine her worst fear of dying. She sees herself in a coffin and begins to scream loudly. And at that moment, Sarah uses her mind-reading ability to enter Rhonda's imagination and takes her to a happy memory where she spent time with her grandmother and her daughter.
You don't belong here.
But the plan fails, and the grandmother turns into an alien creature who sends Sarah back from the alien ship first. Rhonda starts to plead with the creature to let her go home where her daughter was waiting.
She'll be waiting for me.
The more Rhonda cries and begs the grandmother, the more the creature feeds off Rhonda's emotions, and in the end, she ends up getting killed. At the same time, Sarah starts to remember things from her past again, and when Sarah from the past faints, the Sarah from the present also passes out, and John picks up the young Sarah and attempts to revive her.
They're coming.
Witnessing Rhonda's death right before them makes everyone in the room anxious. And when Sarah wakes up, the others who were trapped with her also come to their senses, and John figures out that the alien machine uses humans as its energy source, which is why they were all taken. John finds out that the alien device was absorbing negative human feelings and thoughts and turning them into energy for its heart.
There it is.
He reveals that he's an employee of the US War Department, and they discovered a UFO-like object in New Mexico 22 years ago. He shares that after studying the object, they learned that it can only be operated through mind reading, and the mind reading not only allows communication with the object, but also powers it. However, he mentions that the aliens have found a way to convert human thought power into a type of moving energy to propel the objects, and once they show enough emotional reactions to the fuel, the ship reacts by extending bigger tentacles into the room, and these tentacles wrap around their heads, establishing a direct mind-reading connection with the ship, and they're provoked to react emotionally.
That Roswell wasn't the first, and certainly wasn't the last.
John shares that this is his timeline as the US Department comes across some wreckage at the alien crash site in Pino Alto City years later. They also find some sort of pollution in the nearby area. They start examining all the residents for any mutation-related side effects, and while examining a pregnant woman, they discover that her baby has an unusual condition that they've never seen before. The baby is immediately sent to the lab for testing, and the child turns out to be Sarah. During the test, they find out that she can talk to electronic devices using mind reading, and they later discover that Sarah can also communicate with the alien ship using the same ability.
She opened the door.
Sarah proves this as she successfully connects with the ship, but during the interaction, something strange happens and Sarah faints. It turns out that Sarah was being used as a tool by the US War Department. They torment her in various ways, forcing her to interact with the alien ship and asking her to unlock some sort of gateway.
I need you to open it.
When John stands up to the general for his harsh actions, he's removed from the project.
Go home. Don't come back.
John is then sent to operate a different program, but Sarah wanted him to stay since he's her only friend. She didn't have a name and she was labeled Specialized Extraterrestrial Resonance Agent, and back on the alien ship, everyone was still confused about the current time because everyone was from a different year.
I think we have bigger problems.
The scary tentacles reappear, and this time they grab John. John is taken back to a memory where his daughter was ill and battling for her life. This is done to make him upset and to draw energy from his feelings. The doctor there seems to be an alien creature who attempts to ridicule John and hold him responsible for his daughter's state.
Elizabeth is gonna die, John.
Knowing that the doctor is an alien creature, John resists and refuses to show any signs of emotion, and as a result, the tentacles let go of John, and meanwhile, Perry also gets caught and is shown a scene of him talking with his daughter. Perry is clever enough to realize that the alien creature had taken the form of his daughter, and he courageously resists and it eventually lets him go. Next up was Alex, and she's also taken to her most terrifying memory, where her father attacks her mother in anger. She watches her father knock her mom down and try to harm her, and at the moment, Sarah takes control of her imagination and knocks down her abusive father. She then saves Alex from her scary experience, and right after, John finds himself in an imagined world created by Sarah using her mind-reading abilities. She refers to it as a safe space for them to talk because no one will ever look for them there.
They won't think to look for us here.
Sarah discloses that the alien ship is a highly advanced artificial intelligence system known as a biomechanoid. And this is what's extracting energy from humans to open a gateway in the multi-dimensional universe.
They're harvesting energy.
The purpose of this is to transport its forces to the Earth where humans live. She also points out that the alien ship exists at different times at a single location, similar to a time anomaly.
What are they looking for?
Me.
Now the alien creatures take over Sarah's imagination as well, and it becomes clear that her mother's pregnancy due to an alien particle was not an accident.
Humans ain't nothing special.
The aliens had a well-thought-out scheme to create a child that was part human, part machine, to facilitate easier communication. She learns that she has the power to rescue all the kidnapped humans, but she must first open a specific door. When Sarah returns to the alien ship's mind, she talks to it, the tentacles reappear and attack Perry. Perry is decapitated and his head is destroyed to everyone to instill fear, and the alien system interfaces with Perry's severed head and issues a chilling warning that humans will soon be extinct. Unable to bear the sight of their demise, Sarah attempts to establish a connection with her younger self, who is trapped within an alien device at a military base. The entity that previously prevented Sarah from opening the door turns out to be her future self, who is trapped in an alien ship. After connecting with the alien device, young Sarah gains the ability to see into the future and communicate with her older self. Future Sarah prevented her younger self from opening the interdimensional gateway because it would allow the alien species to send their forces to Earth and take over. However, Sarah now feels obliged to open the door in order to rescue all the abducted individuals, and as soon as Sarah attempts to open the door, a wormhole forms and everything that occurs within the alien ship is undone. Perry's head is reattached and Rhonda regains consciousness, and Sarah and John realize that Sarah, who can interact with the ship, is in both present and the past, and has the ability to liberate the humans on board, but it would require her to give up her own life. John pleads with her to let him accompany her, however Sarah appears to have made up her mind, and bids John a final farewell.
Goodbye, John.
They then find themselves back on Earth, safe and sound, and not just them, but all the individuals who had been previously taken by the aliens are returned to Earth. As the story ends, they understand that an alien invasion is imminent and they need to prepare for it, and they start heading toward a city in a distance, and the alien ship then abducts Sarah, who uses her permanent energy source and opens the interdimensional gateway. Following this, it dispatches a large fleet of alien ships to seize the humans and ultimately Earth.